we have a very, very interesting top five from the number 2 quarterback in the class of 2027 and Jace Johnson. He has broken down his final top five to Tennessee, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Mississippi State, which I'm shocked, and Florida State. Am I surprised at all with this top five? The 3 schools I'm shocked with is, first of all, USC. Number 1, South Mississippi State is number 1. Number 2, in my opinion, would be South Carolina. Number 3, probably Texas A&M. Either that or Tennessee. But let's go ahead and let's talk about Jace Johnson for a little bit because of just how important of a commit would he be. So he's scheduled to commit August 3rd of this year. And I think that this is a very, very interesting time for the quarterback room in South Carolina because you got to think about your future. You really have to, because you look at where South Carolina is at for the class of 2026 and beyond. We've talked about Landon Duckworth a lot on this show. We've talked about his potential future of what he could bring to South Carolina. But what if Duckworth ends up flipping his commitment? And now you go into the class of 2026, and as of now, with your recruiting class right now, your best thing that you have going for you right now in South Carolina is your defensive line. And I think the number one biggest thing that you have to address as well is your future at quarterback. Because Air Nolan is going to be your full-time starter in 2026. There's no doubt in my mind that that's the case. I think he's going into his redshirt sophomore year in 2026. 27. What if he has a breakout year the next year? He could enter the draft. Where is South Carolina looking at for its class of 26 in the quarterback room? They don't have any. You look at what they had in 25 in that quarterback room. They have what? 1 or 2? At best, maybe 1. Yeah, you only have 2 total. Air Nolan, and then you went out into the recruiting and got a commitment from Cutter Woods, who was a top 50 quarterback. I'm not saying Cutter Woods is going to be a bad quarterback. I also know that there's much more talent that you could get from a guy like maybe you go out into the portal and you go get another backup with plenty of experience and a much better offense that is similar to what Mike Shula's offense could be. Now, at the end of the day, you can't control whether or not a kid flips commitments or not, because we've talked about this plenty. In fact, our last recruiting update that we had with Landon Duckworth, we talked about this. Money is what matters at the end of the day. And it sucks for me to say that because it's the truth. It is the ultimate truth when we talk about the high school and transfer portal recruiting, is that the amount of zeros at the end of a paycheck is what is going to matter for a kid at the end of the day than it is for them to get actual playing time. Lenora Sellers is the anomaly in that one because the kid got offered $8 million to go play somewhere else. He could have taken that money, but he just chose to stay in Columbia because Columbia is his home. It was his first commitment. It was the number one place where he wanted to go to, and I thought he made an excellent choice to stay here. I thought it was a very, very bold statement for him to make, and I really, really appreciate him doing that. Really do. But I also look at the quarterback room for what's to come in the next couple years. Who do you have? It's not really a whole lot that you can rely on in the next couple of years, guys. As much as I want to say I have a lot of faith in 26 and beyond, I don't know, man. I don't want South Carolina to go through a stretch where they had between Connor Shaw and Spencer Rattler. Because during that era, which I think was near the end of the Muschamp and the not the end of the Muschamp, end of the Spurrier to all the way through the Muschamp campaign. You didn't have an answer at quarterback until Spencer Rattler came in. Connor Shaw was the last great quarterback that you had until Rattler came in 2 years ago. Or no, 3 years ago, actually. My only fear is that this is going to end up well because of your inability to recruit. You have to attack the portal with a vengeance. You have to go get skill guys. I'm not saying you did a bad job this last year. I thought last year's portal class was the best you've ever had. Last year's recruiting class is going to be very, very good. I thought you had a lot of guys that you could plug in and eventually develop their way into the starting role. 26 is going to be a great class. But in my opinion, you have to stock up at that in that quarterback room. You don't have a choice, guys. I don't care how many zeros it takes. I don't know what Aaron Nolan is going to look like in 2026. I don't know how he develops. I think he'll be fine with Mike Shula as your offensive coordinator. But let's say Mike Shula leaves after this year. What if he goes to get another offensive coordinator job or another position coach job in the NFL, which I guarantee you he wants to do that. I mean, Shula's been an NFL guy all of his career except for, 3 years when he was head coach at Alabama? This is going to be a very, very tumultuous time for South Carolina fans, especially if you're big in the South Carolina recruiting. And JB talked about it great last week. South Carolina is one of the most underrated states when it comes to top-tier talent. They've talked about guys like Lenoris who came there. Clowney came, or I think Jadeveon Clowney came from there. Deebo Samuel. They're Ace Sanders, Marcus Lattimore. Guys that have come from the state of South Carolina and that have stayed in the state of South Carolina has gone on to have great careers. So why should things change for South Carolina? And why do you ask me why I'm so hard on a program like this at the quarterback position? Because it's the general. That's the position where everybody's going to look at. You had one commit this past year. You have 0 in the class of 26. So this either tells me you're wanting to go to the portal and you're wanting to avoid high school, which you've started to dip your toes back in there, especially this year. But I don't know, man. If you can get Landon Duckworth into your program, that would be an incredible thing for you. I think that'd be the biggest one that you got since you kept Lenoris in South Carolina. But if it comes down to it, look, if Jace Johnson is to be a South Carolina Gamecock, which from what I am hearing, he's trending more towards either A&M or Tennessee. But let's say Jace Johnson does stay in South Carolina. Guys, he's going to be 220 to 230 pounds by the time he gets to his senior year in high school. He'll be entering his junior year in 2025. I think he has an opportunity to build a lot of muscle, build a lot of speed that's going to come up in the next couple of years. The kid is going to be an electric quarterback. Make no mistake about that. I have a lot of faith in what his abilities can translate to on the field on a college level basis. I really have a lot of faith in what South Carolina can do to develop him into a top-tier quarterback. I have a lot of respect for what Mike Shula has done in the past with guys like Cam Newton. Remember, long time, he was quarterback coach and offensive coordinator almost his entire tenure in Carolina. So Mike Shula knows what an elite level quarterback is going to look like. And it looks like in the form of Cam Newton. Now, Where does Jace Johnson go from here? And how does he develop further for the next year and for the next 2 years at the high school level? Well, in my opinion, it starts with being able to be fundamentally sound when you're in the pocket. One thing that I have noticed when I've watched his tape is that he is a great athlete. I am not taking that away from him. But I want to see him be comfortable in the pocket, not leave whenever a little bit of danger comes to him, whenever protection breaks down. I want him to move his feet more. I want him to make touch throws that are difficult to make. I want him to plant 50-50 balls, and I want it to get him to where only his guy can get them or nobody else gets them. That's what's going to separate him from being just another quarterback to being a truly, truly complete package. Or I should say this, from being a great athlete as a quarterback to being the complete package on what a quarterback or what a modern day quarterback is supposed to be. That's just my opinion on that one. You can disagree, but this is where the state of South Carolina is at right now when it comes to the quarterback position with recruiting. And I think it's very important that you attack it in this way. You're going to do that. Make no mistake about it. And it's going to work out well for you. You're going to dominate in recruiting. Only if you keep the pieces that are around you. Let's continue on. Let's move on to our next recruit. That's going to be that just announced his final couple selections. That's Samari Matthews. Number 6 cornerback in the nation, down to Texas, Miami, and Florida State. And I think that this is a pretty interesting one to me because Matthews is a Carolina native. He's not from South Carolina, but he is from North Carolina. He is a very, very good ball player. Make no mistake about it. I think this kid can be one of the best safeties to come out of high school in a while. So let me throw up his graphic on here. Here we go. So in my opinion, I don't know what is with this baby blue that Florida State's trying to rock. Like, no disrespect to our boys in Florida State. Bro, I don't think I've ever seen y'all wear these baby blue uniforms. And if that's the case, why are y'all wearing them? What is supposed to represent the ocean? Stick to y'all's colors. But regardless of that, South Carolina, in this instance, they're not a real favorite to get him. But I do think with what Samari Matthews brings, he is a ball hawk. He has checked several boxes. He's going to commit on June 11th. We may go live that day for a commitment show. I'll be honest, we may. But from the evaluation, he's one of the top tier cornerbacks as a complete player that's checked boxes in terms of physical ability and testing metrics. Guys, as a sophomore, he ran a 22.95 in the 200 meter as a sophomore. He has adequate height, weight, and speed with the ability to shell and mirror in both man-to-man and zone situations. He has a very quick reaction. He breaks off the ball really good. He's able to get out of his break and help and run support. I think he can be a guy that is going to be put on an island, and he's not going to get a lot of action because they're not going to throw his way. They won't dare to throw his way because of how elite his ball coverage is. He can get out into space, and he can keep that one arm. Guys, he's got blanket coverage all the way. His technique is dang near flawless. I do think that he does have to work on that first step, because I do think that because of off ball, he doesn't really get an opportunity to show his off ball coverage because of the lack of opportunities he gets to have a ball thrown his way. But I do think that in camp season, he's going to get a lot more, which when we get to further down the road in our show, we're going to talk about camp season and how people will post the most ridiculous things, by the way, that is just not going to translate into an actual game. Anyways, he's projected as a day 2 pick. So the likely expectation is that he will commit to either Clemson or Texas. Most people are talking about him throwing up the horns and going to Texas. I wouldn't be surprised if he does so either. Just knowing what type of athlete that he is and knowing the type of guy that he possesses, he just screams burnt orange, to be honest with you. And that's not saying that he isn't going to be a South Carolina kid, but just with the way that Texas has been after him, I don't know how many times he's been to Texas. I think he's maybe been like 4 or 5 times because because of just how good he was supposed to be. I think he was supposed to end up committing earlier this month, but he went on a visit to Texas. He liked the program there, and he decided to reschedule his commitment. You know, one of the top cornerbacks in the land is going to end up making a big impact if he is to stay at Texas. I think he can develop well there, but I think he can also provide some depth at South Carolina. I think he has more of an opportunity to play if he is to commit to South Carolina. But again, I can't make that decision. The paycheck and the opportunities that he will have at the end of the day to play is going to end up ultimately affecting that decision. Let's talk about PJ Dean, the number 7 defensive lineman in the nation. He's narrowed it down to South Carolina, Georgia, and Ohio State. So this is the cat that this past year played offensive line. He played both sides of the ball. And when I tell you this kid was a monster, oh my gosh. When you turn on the tape of this kid, it's like watching magic happen. I was absolutely in awe of what he has done. He's been able to do off the football. His get off is incredible. The way that he is able to attack the middle of the field is incredible. That's his graphic, by the way. He's just got so much talent and so much speed off the ball that it's hard for a guard to get a beat off of him. It's hard to do so. But PJ Dean is going to be an elite level talent. 6'5", 305 pounds. I do think that he is going to play more on the offensive line this next year. But he did lose a little bit of weight from his freshman to senior year. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, because it just shows you how much he can do even with him being only a few pounds lighter. He doesn't look like he's 305. I think he's more in that 265 range, maybe 270 from his freshman year. They have him at 6'5", 305 initially for his freshman year. Now he dropped about 50 pounds from it. But guys, this cat can play. Let's just show you a few clips. They'll have it circled right here. He's right there at the top. Stays on his man. Ability to finish is incredible. Is this on goal line or is this? Okay, he's off the edge right here. Jumps on the inside and does a great job of meeting that back in the hole. Here he is on the goal line. And he said earlier, this is an exact quote from him to Gamecock Central, I think. And he said this. It really is just that they see me as an all-around athlete, a two-way killer. Me in South Carolina, I've got that home feeling with them. So he's neck and neck with Georgia and South Carolina. Coach Beamer and Coach Smart, I'm glad they're neck and neck with it right now. This is a very good sign for South Carolina. You may be able to keep PJ Dean in the Carolinas. Now, I don't want to see him get his head down on these run plays, because if this is an SEC D lineman, he's going to see that, and he's going to take this backhand, he's going to club, and he's going to swim across, and he may fall on his face. But he does a good job of maintaining his leverage. Look at the hips. That's what you have to do as an offensive lineman, is you have to be able to utilize your hips whenever you're in pass pro or in run block situations. He does a great job of doing that. And dude, he gets out into the middle of the field really well. He does not slow down one bit. Even though he lost about 50 pounds from his freshman year, this kid is still an elite ball player that can make defensive linemen look really bad. Bam, gets off the ball. This is the type of plays that I'm excited to see. I'm not going to say that he is a Jordan Davis type player, but the kid is very athletic. He does a good job of not getting washed, and he puts pressure. Does a great job of getting in the backfield to prevent any further damage from that screen. I mean, he just looks so bad. That's incredible. Off the ball. Good extension. We're going to use our hands. I would like for him to maintain quarterback depth. Come on. Right there, right here. We're turning our feet towards this quarterback. Now, he didn't do that bad. He did get the sack, but still. Dang near overran the quarterback. We can't do that. Head up on the center. I mean, this is just bully ball. You're not going to be able to line up on a center and think that you can get a push off and think that you're going to be able to get off the ball in an effective manner. Bam. Dude is a monster on the interior, on defense specifically. Pass pro is just incredible. He's just going to make plays all over the field. He does a great job of washing. They're going to try to get him with the double team again. No, I'm sorry, the triple team, but fights off of that. He does a great job of keeping his shoulder square, extending, getting skinny, getting in between. That's what you want to see. That's the type of athlete that you want to see from a guy like PJ Dean that can straight up do it all. Bull rush. Another sack. I wonder if they're going to put him. I wonder if they're going to let him play a little bit of D end as well. I would like to see him play more than just interior wise. I want to see him out on the edge. Well, this is kind of him in a DM position. Squeezes down. Never mind. I thought that was him. We're looking at offensive lineman. He's just such a big frame that it's so hard for guys to get off the ball against an athlete like that. You just can't do it. All right, here we go. More defensive film. There we go. Speaking of which, edge rush. Finally. I mean, this is okay. First of all, we're high. We are high. Oh my gosh. This frustrates me. I want him to be lower than this offensive lineman or at least head level. But he ends up making a play, so first of all, this is a hold. He does a great job of keeping on utilizing that swim, does not quit, and he's able to get into the backfield. This will be the last clip, and then we'll cut off the tape. Good leverage. Pancake. Okay. But I think that kid has a lot of talent at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong. This kid is going to be a very, very good athlete. Two-way player, can do it all. And I think when you pair him with T-Rob, with Coach T-Rob, guys, there's no telling what his future and what his ceiling is going to look like in a Gamecocks jersey.